everyone. Have you ever wondered how computers talk to each other? Like when you send a message or watch a video online? Well, there is a cool thing called the OSI model which makes this communication possible. So think of it like a set of rules that all computers follow to make sure they understand each other. So it's a bit like how we use a common language to communicate with friends from different places. So in the same way, the OSI model has different layers, kind of like a cake, each with a special job to make sure your pictures, your messages, and videos get to where they need to go on the internet. So, with this, I would like to personally welcome you to my training. The OSI model is the first training in my entire training series, which sets the tone for my other trainings, which you may want to join. And you are watching the course orientation video, which is the first video that you should be ideally starting with before you take my other courses. So, my name is Dhananjay. You can call me DJ. And I want to first appreciate and thank you for trusting in me and making that investment and coming in on board. And this is going to be an adventure, meaning it's not going to be a journey from point A to point B, but it's going to be an adventure going from scratch, in your case, to making a stable career in IT. So if you are from IT background or you have done some IT courses, then you must have studied the OSI model somewhere during your university curriculum. But I'm sure that your concepts still need to be demystified when it comes to the actual data transfer. So my case is not different either, because I also come from the same background that you came from. So please note that you are going through my 3.0 course series, meaning it's the third version of my courses since 2003. So when I started my journey in the training domain, you cannot imagine the effort that I put into these courses, and I'm sure you'll realize it while you complete them in sequence. So let me tell you, it usually happens to my students that they know certain aspects of the course or have completed the course somewhere else, and they skip some lessons because of the simple reason. But I want to emphasize that even if you have completed some training in the past, you will always see something new while you revise your concepts in my training. So specialty of 3.0 courses is that unlike my earlier versions, I have now converted all the practical aspects on how to validate those skills by taking a practical approach. While you go through each video in this course series, you will always get to know the aspect that you missed to study in your previous trainings. So if you visit my courses, you would realize that around 15,000 plus students have already enrolled, and around 1,000 plus students have already made it to the finish line and experienced this journey. So if you see the testimony of my students, you'll get to know how easy it is to follow the system I laid during my trainings. So when you start strong, when you start with the right intentions, to that extent, you are going to grow in your career. So intent is everything. And the energy with which you accomplish my courses is everything. But I have a concern. The concern is that you have made an investment in my course, you have got started, but I'm not sure if you can complete every single thing that I have given you through my courses. So I'm not sure if you will finish all my courses, and I want you to make a commitment, because a lot of people buy stuff, they come into courses like this, but they don't really take it seriously. You know, because of whatever reasons, life takes over, the price point is less, I don't have time, I don't have money, or I do not have resources, my health is not good, my support system is not good, whatever may be the case you have, the only way you can get the best value out of my courses is if you can take it to the finish line. So before even I begin on this course, I want to first throw a challenge at you. Are you ready to do this? Are you willing to take it to the finish line? Not going to skip even a single video of mine? You can imagine going back to the school and you are taking notes, going through this journey as if you are back to the school, or as though you are really investing into something, your time and energy to build something really great. So with that being said, I want to welcome you again. So today we are going to explore the OSI layers, understand what they do and how they help us all stay connected in this digital world. So let's dive in and uncover the secrets of how our devices really talk to each other. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So, welcome again to the exciting journey to demystify the concepts of OSI model. So, I'm excited to kick off this training session with an example which will help you understand the need of OSI or TCP/IP model. So, today we are going to delve into the OSI model, which serves as a fundamental framework for understanding how the network systems operate. Just like a blueprint guides architects in constructing a building, the OSI, that is Open System Interconnection Model, provides a structured approach for comprehending the complexities of network communications. So let's explore this framework together to gain insights into the layers that facilitate seamless data transmission. So imagine you are sending a package to your friend or family. First, what you do is you pack it carefully to keep it safe during the transportation. Then you give it to the courier agency to deliver it to the right address. So let's say you are sending a package to your family from another country where you work. So millions of packages are sent around the world. So when a package is delivered, there are many steps to make sure it reaches the right place. So it might travel by sea or air, then by rail or truck, and finally be delivered by a courier to your door. So now think about sending an email or message on the internet. It also goes through different channels like fiber optic cables, ethernet cables, or satellites. So it starts at your local internet provider, then moves through global providers, and finally reaches the recipient's computer. So in this process there are many devices involved, so your router, ISP router, and more. So there are also different types of network lines and protocols like TCP, UDP, and HTTP, right? So to make all these devices understand each other, we use the OSI model. So it's a framework that helps different devices communicate effectively. So if we talk about the development of the OSI model, the Open System Interconnection Model was developed as a conceptual framework, and this was done by the International Organization for Standardization in late 1970s. So the need for standardized model arose from the increasing complexities of network communication and the growing number of different types of computer systems that needed to communicate with each other. So the main goal was to facilitate communication between different systems regardless of their underlying architecture. So the initiative to create the OSI model was led by International Organization for Standardization, which is a global body that sets standards for various industries. So the OSI model was developed by the ISO's technical committee, which focused on developing a framework for open systems interconnection. So the development of the OSI model was a collaborative effort that involved contributions from various organizations and experts. And when I say experts, the experts are from the field of telecommunications and computing. So some of the key contributors included the International Telegraph and Telephone Consultative Committee, CCITT, and the International Organization for Standardization, that is ISO itself. So during the 1980s, the OSI model gained significant traction as a standard reference model for network communications. However, its practical implementation faced challenges. So, particularly from the already established and widely used TCP/IP model. So, when I say TCP/IP, it stands for Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol Suite. So, TCP/IP eventually became the de facto standard for the internet, while the OSI model remained primarily as a reference model. So, despite its limited implementation, the OSI model significantly influenced the development of networking standards and protocols. So, its layered approach provided a systematic way of understanding and designing network communication protocols. So, this has been instrumental in the development of various networking technologies. Friends, please take a pause whenever needed and make notes of the key points that I am giving you. So, wherever possible, I shall be attaching notes to these lessons under the resource section. Not necessary that each session should have notes attached, but I would request you to keep an eye on the resource section while you go through each session. So, coming back to the topic. So overall, while the OSI model did not achieve the widespread practical implementation, its conceptual framework laid the groundwork for the development of modern networking standards and protocols. So serving as a significant reference point for the design and implementation of various communication protocols and technologies. So armed with a deep understanding of the OSI model, you can effectively troubleshoot systems or network connectivity issues and protect sensitive data and systems from a wide array of cyber threats. So, thank you for watching. So, in the next segment of this course, we'll talk about the 7 layers. So, thank you once again for watching. I hope this introduction was helpful. So, see you in the next class. Have a nice day. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back to another training session on the OSI model. So here we are now going to understand the 7 layers of the OSI model one by one. So with this, I would like to welcome you once again. Hope you are finding this training useful. So without further ado, let's dive into the OSI model. So friends, we are diving into the intriguing world of the OSI model. One thing I have noticed is that many newbies struggle to wrap their heads around the OSI model. It's like they have got the pieces, but the puzzle is not coming together. So, in this video, I'm on a mission to make it crystal clear to you. We are going to break down the 7 layers so that you can confidently use the knowledge in your day to day work. If you are serious about leveling up your skills and gaining some serious clarity, then stick around. We have got a lot to unpack. So, moving to the introduction. So, let's talk about the OSI model, which stands for Open System Interconnection Model. So this model was a game changer when it was adopted as an international standard by the International Organization for Standardization in 1984. So at that time, network computing was just taking off. The OSI model works by dividing communication into 7 layers. So each packed with various hardware standards, protocols, and services. So each of these layers has its own specific role in handling data that's being transmitted. So this layering system makes it easier to manage and understand the complex process of the data in a network environment. So the open system interconnection model is composed of 7 layers, namely the application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, then the network layer, data link layer, and physical layer. So these are the 7 layers. So these layers are always counted from the bottom to the top. So if you look here, I have given numbering from 1 to 7. So the first layer, when it comes to the counting of the layers, physical layer is the layer 1 and the application layer is the seventh layer. Even if it looks at the top, it is the seventh layer in the OSI model. And you can see the layers are counted bottom up. So the top 3 layers are referred to as the upper layers or software layers, and the bottom 3 layers are known as the lower layers or hardware layers. And the transport layer, positioned in the middle of the OSI model, is often considered the heart of the entire system, as it facilitates the reliable and efficient transfer of data between different devices or nodes. So it plays a crucial role in ensuring that the data is transmitted accurately and efficiently and functioning as a bridge between the upper and lower layers of the OSI model. So these layers are provided by a mixture of network card drivers, operating systems, then the applications and networking hardware that facilitates the transmission of signals over Ethernet, fiber optic, or Wi-Fi or other wireless protocols. So as you can see on the screen, these are the devices which understand the network communication. And when it comes to understanding the network communication, we are talking about the different layers within this model. So there are some devices which only understand the bits or signals. There are some devices which understand the MAC address, example the switch. There are some devices which understand MAC as well as the IP, which is the router, right? There are some devices, example your Mozilla Firefox or Chrome browser, that is the layer which provides interface to the user to interact with the remote website. So this layer understands all these layers. But when it comes to the layers, each layer has a specific but different processing function. So moving next, how to memorize. So to remember OSI model, uh, you can use the following phrase: all programmers should take new development projects, where each first letter corresponds to the name of the OSI layers in order. So application, so the first letter A corresponds to application layer. Programmers, the first letter P corresponds to presentation, and so on. Now this is how you can memorize these layers. So all programmers should take new development project. So this is how I remember. There are some people who memorize this like please do not throw sausage pizza away. So they are now memorizing this from bottom up, wherein again it is the same thing that you are trying to memorize. So friends, remember these phrases so it becomes easier for you to memorize the layers in sequence. So sequence is very important. So with this, you understood how to memorize the layers as well. So I hope you are finding this training useful. I've tried. If you look at this, the slides and the demonstrations using Wireshark that you are going to see in the in the upcoming lectures, you will feel like you are able to grasp everything. I have structured this particular training in such a way that it becomes easier for you to understand, because unless and until you feel it easy, you'll not be able to gain confidence, and confidence is everything. So friends, my beginner courses will give you that confidence so that you can confidently get into the desktop administration, system administration, network administration, or finally the security domain in which I am currently working. So friends, uh, be very careful while going through my slides, because I have tried capturing all the possible details. So all the information that I have collated from different sources has been structured in such a way that you understand it correctly. So with this, let's move on to the first layer in the OSI model, which is application layer. So application layer is responsible for providing networking services to the user. So it is also known as the desktop layer, and identification of services is done using port numbers. So the application layer is the topmost layer of the OSI model and is responsible for providing networking services to user applications. So consider Mozilla Firefox or Chrome browser. So these are the applications that we usually interact with. So these are not the actually these are not the application layer. These are applications. But what these applications do is that they leverage the application layer functionality where we talk about different networking services. Example, accessing a website is a network service. So you are accessing a website using HTTP, right? So HTTP is the protocol, or HTTPS. Again, HTTPS is the protocol. So these are the protocols, and when you talk about the protocols, each protocol has a service associated with it. So we will understand these concepts in detail as you continue to do my other courses. So for now, you need to understand that this layer is responsible for providing networking services to the user. So example, accessing a website using a Chrome browser, or it could be accessing your email using your email client like Outlook, or example, you are part of some web conferencing meeting, right? You are using Microsoft Teams. Most of the people use Microsoft Teams in the corporate environments. It could be Google Teams, Google Meet. So many tools are there. So these tools uh, leverage the application layer functionality and make sure they are able to send and receive data from those applications. So ports, when we talk about, so total ports, if you ask, there are 65535 ports. So 0 to 65535 ports. Example, port 80 is one standard port. Port 443, this is HTTPS port. So likewise, there are total 0 to 65535 ports. There are reserved ports which are 0 to 1023. These are nothing but the standard ports used by the well-known applications. And there are open ports from 1024 to 65535. So the main function of the application layer is to provide access to network resources. The application layer enables users access to various networking services such as file transfer, email, web browsing by utilizing different protocols like HTTP, FTP, SMTP, and DNS. So let's understand this from the applications standpoint. So this is the layer that most users interact with and will recognize, right? So example, I have shown one user accessing a website using HTTP protocol. So the application layer provides network services to the end user. So these services are protocols that work with the data the client is using. So one of these protocols may be HTTP, that is used to browse the websites. So it could be the Google Chrome, Firefox, or the Microsoft Edge browser, and other examples of the applications uh, use that use this layer are Office, Outlook, and Microsoft Teams. So all those interactive applications provide a set of services that allow the application layer to supply data to and receive data from the presentation layer. So the next layer, as you can see, is the presentation layer. So this layer facilitates that communication, and how that does is by attaching a port number to the payload. So here some of the important port numbers to talk about. So domain name system, it uses port 53. Hypertext transfer protocol, it uses port 80. So when it comes to HTTPS, it uses port 443. And then coming to the file transfer, it is port 20 or port 21. So this is used to transfer files from the client to the server, or from one computer to other computer, where one is the FTP client and the other one is the FTP server. So these are some of the ports that you should be aware of. Please pause on this slide, take a screenshot or prepare notes so that you remember them in future. So this is how it happens. Suppose I have opened my browser, entered the URL of my website dhananjay.com. I am now sending the HTTP request by entering the URL. The request from my computer will be sent to the web server. Now the web server receives that request. As it was HTTPS, it has listed the request on the port number 443. Now it replies back on the same port number, and my computer received the response. So that's how finally it opens the website. So friends, I have tried capturing the flow in such a way that you get to understand the data transfer happening specific to that particular layer. So like this, the application layer interacts. So what happened is, now consider again FTP. If we have to talk about FTP again, instead of HTTP, I'm using FTP. My computer sends the request. Request is sent to the web server. The server listens the request on the port 21. Now the response is received back, and now instead of the HTML page, I'll be able to see the actual data within my website. So the backend of the website, the folders from where the website is actually visible to the public. Now if we want to talk about the activities and the attack vectors, so activity you have already understood, user interface. So when we talk about the activities, this layer provides the user interface, and software applications work at this particular layer. Example, web browsing, email communication, or file transfer. Protocols like HTTP, SMTP, and FTP are used at this particular layer. So now coming to the attack vectors, right? Now consider you are a user accessing internet using your browser. There could be a chance where you by mistake click some suspicious URL, and that may connect you to some suspicious website to download some malware. So that's where we are talking about the attack vectors at this particular layer. So there could be a malware injection that may happen to your computer. It could be a phishing attack. So let me show you an email example, which is a phishing email. These kind of emails are floating around the globe. Hackers are continuously trying to steal sensitive information from users. So they try to create some kind of urgency by sending you an email and then creating some kind of emergency to immediately act. So if you see here on the other screen of my computer, there is an email. So this is a test email that I have sent to myself. As you can see, this email was sent by me again to my own account. So we regret to inform you that there has been suspicious activity detected on my computer. Our security system has flagged several unauthorized login attempts from unfamiliar locations. So if you read this, it will immediately grab your attention. You'll be much worried when you look at this. And instead of investigating this email, whether this has come from a trusted source or not, users what they usually do is they immediately click on the links like this. So if you happen to click on this link, it will try to download something suspicious, example some malware, or it may try to grab your credentials. So friends, if you look at this, the site has been reported as unsafe, hosted by some organization. Microsoft recommends you don't continue to this site. It has been reported to Microsoft for containing harmful programs that may try to steal personal or financial information. So this is actually a safe website URL that I have used for this demonstration, but it could be a real harmful website that may download some malware, and hackers may get access to your computer from any part of the globe. So friends, how you can quickly identify this is by just putting your pointer on that link. Now you can see the actual link to which this particular link is pointing to. So that's how you can safeguard yourself from such phishing attacks. So moving back to our topic. So malware injection, phishing attack, or it could be application level DDoS attack are some of the attacks which may happen at this particular layer. So I have discussed these topics at length in my cybersecurity courses. So once you go through all my courses, let me quickly show you my website. So friends, this is my website. Here, if you could see, these are the essential courses I have created. One is the OSI model that we are currently on. After you complete OSI model, you can take IP addressing. Then you can take the physical network connectivity course, and then subsequently Windows, Linux, at system administration courses I have created, and along with storage management. And the World Wide Web course, it talks about the internet. And with this course, you can even start your web hosting company. So trust me, I have covered the topics at such a length that you can even start a business after you complete my World Wide Web course. So this course is currently under development, but this will be launched very soon. So please go through my site. I talk a lot about cybersecurity aspects. Being a cybersecurity consultant, my current area of focus is cybersecurity, as there is a lot of potential in this particular domain, and lots of students or people are getting job opportunities in this particular area. So if you are interested in cybersecurity, you can join my cybersecurity courses to achieve success. So I would request you to go through my website dhananjay.com, go through the initial introductory videos that I have created, and then continue to other courses. So friends, now this is the attack example that we have already discussed. So what happens is the link points you to some fake URL which could be a potential risk. So as you can see, potentially unwanted uh, executable file that is trying to get executed on your computer. So networking services and protocols, if we discuss, so HTTP uses port 80, FTP uses port 21, SMTP uses port 25, Telnet uses the port 23. So if you want to see that in action, if you open a website, it will open the website on port 443. So this is HTTPS site. Same way, if you access FTP, just a recap, friends. So it will open the data in the FTP format. Going to your email, if you access your mail account, it will show you your email. This happens on port number 25. If you telnet, if you want to test connectivity of some router or access some router, you can use telnet command, and you can see the login prompt and the password, and this happens on the port number 23. So these are some of the secure and insecure ports that I have captured. I would request you to go through these ports. Remember, the ports mentioned on the left side, these are the insecure ports. If you happen to use these ports in any of your applications, web services, or servers, please try to replace them by securing the connectivity. So instead of using 21, you can use 22. Instead of using telnet on 23, you can use SSH, which is 22. Now, telnet SMTP used to be a protocol or port used to send email. Now, if you encrypt that protocol using SSL, it becomes SMTPS. So instead of using port 25, you can use a port called 587. So like this, please take a screenshot, or I would suggest you to take a printout, keep it with you, and try to memorize the secure and insecure ports. So when we talk about the data flow, the application layer actually attaches the port number to the data before it submits that data to the next layer. So data at the application layer is attached with the port number, and then it is submitted to the next layer. So friends, in the upcoming session we are going to talk about Wireshark. So we'll delve into the application layer in more depth with the help of the network or packet analyzer, which is a well-known tool used by network administrators, cybersecurity professionals, or application developers. So let's dive in and see how you can understand the functionality of the application layer using the Wireshark tool. So with this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back to another session on the OSI model. So in the last section, we have seen how the application layer functions. Now in this session, I'm going to give you complete clarity on how this layer interacts with the next layers. Important point that you understood in the earlier session was the ports which this layer uses to communicate with the next layer. So suppose you are accessing some website, it could be port 80, which is HTTP, or it could be HTTPS, which is port 443, or it could be any other application port that you are using. So here I'm going to use a network analyzer tool called Wireshark to understand how the data actually transferred from the application to the next layers. So for the demonstration purpose, I'm going to use a tool called Wireshark. So let me open that tool here. So before I show you the actual captures, you can go to wireshark.org. This is the URL from where you can download this particular tool. Once you are on the wireshark.org webpage, you can go to the download section. You just need to scroll a little, and you can download the Wireshark installer based on the operating system that you are currently using. So I'm using Windows 11, so I have downloaded Windows x64 installer. So I have already downloaded this and installed the tool. So once you install Wireshark, this is how your screen is going to look like. So there are various network adapters that you can see on my computer. For more details, you can go to your run command and type ncpa.cpl. So this opens up the network connections wizard. This is the page on which you can see all the network adapters connected to your computer. So here These three adapters show a cross sign. It means they are not in use. I'm not using the Ethernet card or the LAN card or the wired LAN card on my computer. But being a laptop user, I have a Wi-Fi network adapter installed on my computer. So this is the one which is currently active. If I go back to the network adapter in the notification pane of my computer, if I disconnect, you will see that there is a cross sign visible here. Just notice the cross sign. I'll just disconnect. Now it is not connected. There is a cross sign, means this adapter is not active. Now I'll connect back to my home internet. Now I have connected. You can now see that Wi-Fi network adapter is active. Means whatever data I'm accessing, example the website, will be accessed using this Wi-Fi network adapter. So going back to Wireshark, here you can see that the traffic on the wireless network adapter is visible to this particular tool. So friends, Wireshark is a network traffic analyzer, or some people call it as a packet analyzer. So this tool is used by network professionals, system admins, used by security professionals, as well as the application developers. Reason, these packets give you complete insight on what is actually happening on the packet or the data being transferred between your computer application to a web server or a web application. So now I'll simply double click on the Wi-Fi adapter. This will immediately start the packet capture. As you can see, the first option is grayed out here, the Wireshark symbol. If you stop it, this is going to be active. So I'll stop this. Now you can see the blue Wireshark icon active. It means now the packet capture has been stopped. Now if you want to start it again, you'll now, before you stop, there is some packet capture that has already happened, right? So if I restart the capture, it is asking me whether I want to save the previously captured data. So as I do not want this, I'll simply click continue without saving. So if I click that, this option is again going to be grayed out and the red icon will be active. It means your computer has started capturing the traffic or the packets which are moving to and fro from your wireless network adapter. So before I start the capture, let me show you a URL. So as you can see on my computer, let me open it. So there is a login page that I have opened just for the sake of demonstration. So on this login page, if you carefully see this particular area in the address bar, you see that your connection to this site is not secure. So it means there is no SSL certificate that has been implemented on this particular URL. Wherein if I go to my training website, you see that there is no insecure information visible here because this connection or this site is secure because I have configured SSL certificate on my website. So going back to the test URL, most of the time people fall prey to certain cyber attacks. Reason being they are not aware of the risk that exists while you access a website without SSL. It means whichever site you are accessing, make sure there is a lock symbol or there is no information like not secure visible in your address bar. I'm just trying to explain it in a layman term so that it becomes easier for you to understand. Wherein if you go to my website dhananjay.com, there is no notification as such which you can see here. So this makes my website secure. So now going back to the page, I have now opened the URL. What I'll do is I simply copy this URL, go to incognito mode. So I'll first start the packet capture, continue without saving. So I'm starting a fresh packet capture. As I said, now this option has grayed out. Let's open the URL once again, and it shows up the login page. So here there is an option to enter ID and password. Consider I enter an ID as admin and password as admin123, and I'll click login. So the moment I click login, it has tried to authenticate me on this particular page, but as I have entered the dummy username and password, I could not authenticate. Now, let us understand what has happened at this layer. So as we are going to understand the application layer, we want to understand what protocol was used communicate with a remote web server. Now going back, I'll now stop the packet capture, and here uh, I'll filter out TCP contains HTTP. So I have accessed the website using HTTP and not HTTPS. So I'm just trying to specifically filter out the traffic on HTTP, hit enter, and these are the packets which were captured. So when you access a website, you're just browsing it, you're just sending get commands, getting something, getting something, getting something. When you click some button, you are sending post commands, right? So if you look at the website, first I opened the URL, it showed me the login ID and password, then I entered the credentials and hit login. And if you now look at the same thing here in terms of the packets, you'll see that first the get request was sent, and then there was a HTTP 200 OK response that was received. Login page was loaded, and on the login page, I entered the credentials and hit login button. So this was actually the post action I did. Now, if you click this particular packet and now scroll or now look at the packet details, I'll go to the packet information. So here you can see IP version 4 was used, right? This is part of the network layer, but just to give you an idea, the source IP and the destination IP is visible here. If you check the IP address of my computer, ipconfig/all, you'll see my IP address is 192.168.1.103, whereas the website that I visited was this one. If I check the IP address of the same, ns lookup, and I paste the URL of that website without HTTP, the IP address is 163.182.194.25. If you go back here in the Wireshark tool, the same IP address is visible to you here. So this is part of the network layer. Now you can see that hypertext transfer protocol, that is HTTP, was used, and going to the HTML form that was loaded on this page, you can see that the text username admin was used and the text password admin123 was used. The username and password was visible within that packet because HTTP transfers data in a clear format. So that is the thing that I wanted you to understand. So application layer, you can use Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, Safari, it could be Microsoft Edge. So these are the applications, and they leverage the functionality of application layers to send and receive data on the network. Example, connecting to a website on the internet. So with this, friends, we understood how the data is transferred from my computer to internet. So one thing that we wanted to discuss was the protocol that was used, source IP address and destination IP address, your computer IP and the remote website's IP address. There is MAC address as well, source MAC address and the destination MAC address is also visible here. So if you cross verify the MAC address of your computer and the MAC address of your router, you will see the same MAC addresses being captured. So with this we come to the end, friends. So I hope you understood that these layers are now making sense to you in terms of practically understanding how the data transfer actually happens on the computer. Friends, OSI model, it looks very easy. It is in fact very easy, but you need to understand the complete flow, the purpose of the layer, what it does, and how the information flows through that layer to the next layers. So with this, See you in the next session and let's discuss about the presentation layer. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Aniket Shinde. I am a cybersecurity professional since last 16 years now. I've been working as a security consultant in Avaya Technologies. I wanted to talk about Dhananjay sir here because he's going to start his new venture. So I really wanted to share a quick testimony about him. I actually started my career under his mentorship, and he has really helped me a long way. And today, even today, he is really giving me his mentorship and guidance whenever I'm stuck in my career somewhere. He is always there and ready all the time. He'll just call up and guide with whatever I want. And he's a real gem of a person and a teacher. So anyone, if you're willing to pursue your career in cybersecurity, I would encourage him anytime. Dhananjay sir is the best way to go, and you just enroll with him, and you will see that you are not getting taught, not only just getting taught, but you will also gain real clarity, because he'll not settle down with just teaching. Unless and until things are clear to you, he'll not stop. So he's a real gem of a person and a gem of a teacher and a guru for me also, always, and will be there. So thank you, Dhananjay sir, and wish you all the best for your new venture. And I'm always there to support you. Thank you. I love you.
Hello friends, welcome back. So in the last session we have talked about application layer. So now let's discuss about the presentation layer. So as the name suggests, it works on some kind of presentation. So the word came from presenting data in some particular format. And that format is nothing but converting the data from the English language or the user readable language to a computer readable format. So as you know, users are interfacing with the application layer. Suppose you are chatting with your friend using Microsoft Teams, and now Microsoft Teams application now it needs to transfer the data to the recipient in some part of the globe. So that's where the presentation layer comes into picture. So let's dive in and understand the presentation layer. So we discussed about the application layer. So coming to presentation layer, so this layer is responsible for converting data into standard format. When I say standard format, the format which can be used to send the data from your computer to some other computer on the network. So now it is the time where application layer has already accepted data in the user's format. Now while transmitting that data over the wire or over the internet, it needs to be in the computer readable format, and these formats are nothing but ASCII, EBCDIC, JPEG, MPEG, BMP, MIDI, WAV, and MP3. And there are many more formats, like MP4 is one of the formats, right? So if you are watching a video, data would be transferred in the form of MP4 or MOV, or there are many other formats that are available. But the formats need to be understood by the computer. So that's where presentation layer comes into picture. So consider you are sending data from your computer to the internet. So encoding needs to be done. Then encryption is something that is mandatory these days, because anybody can eavesdrop on your traffic if it's not encrypted. So in the last video, I have shown you an example of one website where I logged into that site and shown you how one can read the user account or user ID and password if the data is not encrypted. Now, second thing is compression and decompression. So this is an additional aspect that is done by the presentation layer, because to send the data in an efficient way on the internet or on the network, the data has to be compressed so that it can be efficiently transferred. So looking at the bandwidth, this compression mechanism comes into picture. So in the last session, the encryption part that we have seen is the function of the presentation layer. So encoding while sending, encryption while sending, compression is again while sending, and when the recipient computer or the web server receives that data, when the actual handshake between client and server happens at this particular layer, then the data will be decoded, decrypted, and decompressed while it is submitted to the application layer of that particular server. So this is it about the presentation layer. Nothing so very difficult. I have tried to put this in a way that you can easily grasp. So three functions. One is encoding, decoding, second is encryption and decryption, and third one is compression and decompression. So I have captured an example here. Suppose if you visit microsoft.com, you'll see a lock symbol on the site which depicts that the site is secured using SSL certificate. So this symbol gives you the confidence of accessing this particular site as this is secured using SSL certificate. So sometimes the lock symbol is not directly visible. If you access my site here, you'll see that here it shows connection is secure. It means the whatever data transfer or whatever you access on my site is encrypted between your browser and the web server where I have hosted my website. So that's where encryption comes into picture. Now moving back to our slide. So we have understood enough about the presentation layer. Now let's try to understand what is actually happening. So suppose you are shopping something on an e-commerce site. When you press the shop now button, the data will be first converted. So that is where encoding comes into picture, and it's also encrypted while you make the transactions. So that's where the presentation layer secures the communication between the user and the e-commerce website. So nowadays, this is a mandate that you should have an HTTPS based site, because now most of the browsers are not loading, or they are primarily highlighting it to the end user or the customers of your website that your site is not secure if it doesn't use encryption. So I've shown you in the previous session. I'll show it to you once again. The test URL, if you try to access it, immediately highlights that the site is not secure. Reason being, there is no encryption or the SSL certificate which is configured on this particular site. So for everybody, it is a mandate that you use a proper SSL encryption or the TLS encryption on your website, and that is done using SSL certificates. So data flow from the presentation layer. So application layer data is submitted to the presentation layer using the port numbers as we have seen earlier. Now the data at presentation layer, the activity is the data encryption and decryption, then compression and decompression or expansion, and finally viewing the compressed files is done at the presentation layer. So some of the attack vectors, for this time you just need to understand that data encoding decoding mechanisms have certain known vulnerabilities and standard encoding mechanisms need to be used. So that's where if your website is not updated time to time with a proper encryption mechanism, there is a possibility that somebody may exploit these vulnerabilities to hack the data. So malicious code injection and format string attack are some of the attacks which are possible if the site is not protected properly using an SSL certificate. So that's where for now you just need to understand that these are the attack vectors. If you Google around, you will find a lot of information around these topics. But as this is specific to the OSI model, I won't be covering that part in depth. But in the next session, we'll see how the data is encrypted using the Wireshark tool. So let's delve into the presentation layer in more depth using Wireshark and understand how you can see the encryption happening on a particular website. So with this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you. Hello, friends. Welcome back. We have discussed the theory part about the presentation layer. So, we talked about the activities which are performed at the presentation layer. So, at this point in time, you know that presentation layer does encryption, decryption, compression, decompression, and encoding and decoding. So, for the demonstration of this activity happening on the computer, I'm going to open a website and show you how it actually works. So let's open Wireshark here. So I'll start the Wireshark capture and I'll click on continue without saving. So this is the old capture that I was doing. So I'll quickly create a new capture. Now you can see this option is grayed out. Let's open up a website, example wikipedia.org. Okay, Wikipedia, and this is the URL that I'm going to access. So this is the Wikipedia page, and as this page has been opened, let's go back and stop the capture. So friends, now we have the capture from the site that I have accessed. So this capture will have all sorts of information, like I have Quickle running on my computer. So this is where it is showing protecti.quickhill.com. So the computer will not only capture the sites which I open in specific, but it would be capturing whatever activities those are happening on my computer during that particular time. Now to identify the packet capture, or now to specifically check the packet capture done on the wikipedia.org website. So what I'll do is I'll open this particular site. I'll go to inspect packet capture, or now to specifically check the packet capture done on the wikipedia.org website. So what I'll do is I'll open this particular site. I'll go to inspect, and here in the network section, if I go and I'll reload this page, so you'll see all sorts of activities happening. And here, if I click on the wikipedia.org page, you will see the IP address of the remote server. So this is the IP address of the remote server. So there are few more things like the Wikipedia logo and some other images which are loading from that particular page. But again, if you check the remote IP address, it is going to be the same IP address as all these components of wikipedia.org are loading from the same IP address. So this is the IP address, and you can see that the port used is 443. So it is encryption, it is the SSL certificate or the HTTPS traffic that is getting loaded. So if I copy this particular IP, the SSL certificate or the HTTPS traffic that is getting loaded. So if I copy this particular IP and now go back to Wireshark, so what I'll do is I'll search for IP. Let me correct the string, IP.addr equal to, and I'll paste the IP address. Now I'll hit enter, and now you can see the source and the destination and the traffic that is passing through. So let me adjust the columns here. So now you can see the source IP address is 192.168.1.105. If I go to command prompt and open ipconfig/all, you will see my IP address is 192.168.1.105, and the destination IP address 166.224. That is the IP address of the wikipedia.org. So if I now see the protocols, you can see that TCP handshake is happening. In the middle of these transactions, you can see that there is TLS handshake is also happening. So here what happened is the client has sent a request to the server on port 443. SYN packet was sent. Then server has now responded back to my computer on port 443 with SYN ACK response, and then the the local computer, has responded back to the server with a ACK packet. So SYN ACK and ACK. This is the first sequence that has happened during the establishment of TCP connection. So source port and destination port, these are being captured here, and there are many more things that you can see. So if you want to go through a detailed analysis of Wireshark, or if you want to undergo the Wireshark tool completely, I have a separate dedicated series on Wireshark that you can go through. As this particular session is for understanding the encryption mechanism, we'll stick to the TLS part of it. So now the client has connected to the server with an ACK. Now client has sent the first packet, again the TCP packet, and there is a response here. And now if you go through the handshake, you will see that client had sent a TLS certificate request with a client hello. So here you can see that SNI, which is the server name identifier, which is the www.wikipedia.org. So client has sent the TLS 1.3 request to the Wikipedia server. So now if I bring the bottom screen little upward, so here you can see transport layer. So at the transport layer security, you'll see that TLS 1.3, TLS version 1.3 handshake was used. So record layer handshake protocol used was the client hello. Version is TLS 1.0. So during the handshake, okay, when the encryption happens, when you access some particular website or some application on the internet, first thing is the client and the server negotiate that I have this encryption mechanism with me, and please share the encryption mechanism that is available at your end. And then they negotiate, say client shares I have X number of cipher suits. Then the server responds back that okay, you have these many number of cipher suits with you, but I will establish the connection on a particular cipher suit, and once both of them negotiate, then that particular cipher suit is used for the application data transfer. So now here if you see that TLS version 1.1 is submitted by the client. Now if I go little down, and here you can see that my client has 16 cipher suits which it can work on. So these are the cipher suits. Example, if I have to show you TLS ECDHE, ECDSA with AES 128, GCM SHA-256. So this is one of the cipher suits. So now what happens is once the client shares these cipher suits to the server, so when you see these cipher suits, I would request you to go through cipher suits explained. Just visit there are many sites available on the internet, so I'll quickly take you to one site. So the cipher suit, if you look at TLS, ECDHE, ECDSA, right? This is the one that we have seen with slight little changes with the encryption. But what this means is that TLS indicates the protocol. So TLS 1.3 that we have seen in the Wireshark. So client is saying that I'm using TLS protocol. Then ECDHE, this signifies the key exchange algorithm. So this is the key exchange algorithm which is available with the client. Then ECDSA, this signifies the authentication algorithm. So ECDHE is Diffie-Hellman algorithm which specifies the key exchange, and here ECDSA is the authentication algorithm. And then finally AES 256 CBC, this is the bulk encryption algorithm which is available, and SHA-384 is the MAC algorithm. So I would suggest you to go through these things in detail, research around, and understand what a cipher suit signifies. So for the demonstration purpose, so this is the cipher suits which are currently in use by the client, and these are the ones which the client has now notified to the server. Now if you scroll through, so client has first initiated the encryption. Here you can see now server has responded back with server hello now. And if I scroll a little upwards here, transport layer security, TLS 1.3 to record, so TLS 1.3. So record layer handshake protocol is server hello. Now the version it is showing that TLS 1.2 and handshake protocol is server hello. And if I now scroll through the cipher suits, it is saying that TLS AES 256 GCM SHA 384. Now if I scroll little downwards, so session ID, so this particular part is part that is managed by the session layer. So now cipher suit, this is the one which is being sent by the server to the client. Now if I scroll through the next layer here, now the connection seems to be established, TCP handshake has been completed. Now the actual application data transfer will start happening from here. So you can see here application data, this is in the encrypted form. So whatever transactions which are happening between the client and the server are happening in the encrypted form. So friends, with this I hope you understood the way the data is encrypted. So in the next section, let us see the session layer and understand theoretical part as well as how the session is established. So, and if I now scroll through the cipher suits, it is saying that TLS AES 256 GCM SHA 384. Now if I scroll little, downwards, now cipher suit, this is the one which is being sent by the server to the client. Now if I scroll through the next layer here, now the connection seems to be established, TCP handshake has been completed. Now the actual application data transfer will start happening from here. So you can see here application data, this is in the encrypted form. So whatever transactions which are happening between the client and the server are happening in the encrypted form. So with this we come to the end of the session. Thank you very much for watching.
Hi, my name is Omkar Kedar. I am an electrical engineering graduate from Pune University. After completing my graduation, I started looking job in IT and cybersecurity. I had a few interviews, but I wasn't able to get a job because I didn't have a practical knowledge which company were expecting. Later, my uncle introduced me to Dhananjay sir and I joined his training program at Cybersecurity Academy. The program was very practical and easy to follow. With the help of Dhananjay sir, I successfully completed Essential of IT and Cybersecurity courses and was able to land a job as a cybersecurity analyst at the tech project. One thing I really like to appreciate about the Dhananjay sir's training is that it's very hands-on, straightforward and easy to understand. I would highly recommend cybersecuritycareer.academy to anyone who wants to pursue their career in cybersecurity. Thank you.
Hello friends, Welcome back to another session on the OSI model. So here we are going to talk about the session layer. So before we start discussing about the session layer, I hope you are finding this training useful as we are covering both the theoretical as well as practical aspect of the OSI model. So friends, you might be little confused while I demonstrate the actual data transfer on the OSI layers. See, a very important thing that you should note is the model that is in use is TCP/IP, but few layers of the OSI model are combined into TCP/IP model that we are going to discuss at the end. So just stick to the aspect. Example, in the last video, we discussed about the encryption that happens at the presentation layer, and we have seen how where is that encryption to be located using Wireshark. So in the later section of this training you will understand how to actually deep dive into Wireshark, understand each and every layer, and how you can then first understand the process of how the client connects to a server on the web or maybe on the local network, how you can analyze the traffic, and then you can safeguard the servers or applications used in the analysis done by Wireshark. So moving to the session layer. So we discussed about the application presentation layer already. Now session layer is responsible for establishing and maintaining and terminating the session. So when we talk about establishing session, the session ID comes into picture. So consider there are 5 computers on the network and first computer is talking to the fifth computer. At the same time, computer 2 is talking to the third computer. Now, how does the data from client 1 goes to client 5 and client 2 goes to client 3, right? Why they do not clash the data transfer, right? So data sent from a particular computer reaches to the desired destination. So this happens due to the session layer. So session ID is maintained between the client and the server, or two different clients or two different servers. So as you now understand that there is a session ID that works at this layer. So some of the examples, if I had to tell you, RPC is one of the session layer protocols, which is remote procedure call. Then SQL, this is the structured query language, and NFS, which is nothing but the network file system. So consider you are accessing your mail account. What you will do is you will enter your credentials. This is your email ID. Okay, just for the demonstration I've put my ID here and the password. So once you enter the password and click sign in, it is it is going to give you access to your mail account. So now the moment you log in, it is going to create a session between your browser and the mail server, and it is now going to associate the user account that was used to log in during this particular session, and this session is established. Then while you are accessing your mailbox, this session ID will be maintained, so you can continue to access all your emails, and once you log out, this session will be terminated. So friends, this is what goes here at the session layer. If we talk about the activities and the attack vectors, so establishing, managing, and terminating the session happens at this layer. So it manages the session state. Then the example would be video conferencing. Consider you are talking to your friend using Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or a Zoom meeting or a WebEx session. It will always maintain a session while you are in that particular call, so that all the members within that call can listen to each other. So, attack vectors, if we have to talk about, session hijacking is one of the attacks that can happen on a web application or a server. So, consider you logged into the server using your login ID and you have established a session. So, that application would be maintaining a session ID. And if that session ID gets hijacked, so what other user on the network can do is, by some reason, if they get access to your session ID, they can copy that session ID and use it in a tool to hijack your session. What will happen is that the server will get to understand that you are the one who's trying to log in from that particular location. So that's where uh, the session can be hijacked, and if you are logged in on your application using some browser, the other user or the hacker can log into your account using the same session ID. So that is what we talk about the session hijacking. So brute force is one of the attacks which are session based attacks, and then session fixation attack is an additional attack that is an attack vector at this stage. So when we talk about the data transfer, data from the application layer gets attached with a port number, selecting the port HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, FTPS, or whatever application that you are using to connect to the server. The port number associated with that application will be attached, and then at the session layer, we already discussed concepts like compression, decompression, encryption, decryption, and encoding and decoding goes in here. And at the session layer, now you are aware that a session is established, maintained, and finally terminated once you log out of that particular application or session. So let's understand session ID using Wireshark now. So with this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you for watching.
Hello everyone, my name is Shreyas Kulkarni. I completed my bachelor's in forensic science from Shivaji University, Kolhapur. I am a recently graduate student. After completing my graduation, I wanted to land a job in cybersecurity, but unfortunately I can't. After completing my cybersecurity training at local institute Pune, I got failed. I gave 5 to 6 interview, but totally I got rejection in every interview. But then I realized the employers were looking for is total practical knowledge and I with theoretical knowledge. One of my friends suggested me to join Cybersecurity Career Academy, which is full of practical knowledge and hands-on experience, which is held by Dhananjay sir. And I joined Cybersecurity Career Academy, which is full of practical knowledge and hands-on experience, which is held by Dhananjay sir. And I joined this training courses. After I joined 3 months, I got a job. Now I am a cybersecurity analyst. Thank you, Dhananjay sir, who gave me their best guidance to crack my interviews, and their experience is most valuable as well as we learn in this, and they wanna change your life. So I recommend to everyone who pursue their career in cybersecurity must join the Cybersecurity Career Academy. Thank you.
Hello friends, welcome. So one of my friends introduced me to a tool called Network Miner. So you can visit a site www.netrecscc.com. You can see on my screen. So this tool comes with a lot of options like live sniffing. Then you can do voice fingerprinting. Then there is a PCAP parsing option which is available. You can export the PCAP capture data to CSV or Excel. You can look at the geolocation of an IP address. So many options are available using this particular tool. So coming back, So coming back to the actual tool, so if you look at the screen here, you can do all sorts of things like check broadcast, software loopback interface. So if you go to file and open one of the previously captured pcap files, so you can export pcap file that I'll show you shortly from Wireshark and then import it to this particular tool. So once you import it here, you can then check so many things which are related to the IP address, what is the OS, what is the net BIOS name, then frame details, file details. Then these are the frames which were traveling through the wire. So what is the Ethernet adapter MAC address? Then going to the files, now you can see all sorts of files those were shared on the network while accessing that particular URL. So you can see multiple files which are being accessed, and these are the HTML pages. Then these are the images those were available on that particular URL. So these were the images which loaded in the browser. Then moving to the credentials, now you can see that this was an HTTP based website. So that's where credentials were clearly visible on the network. You can see the client IP, the server IP, then the protocol that was used, right? So username and password, as you can see here, was clearly visible. So it's pretty easy to grab a session on the network if the application or the server is not using any kind of encryption. Now moving to session, you can see that the port used was the port 80, port 23, then there was a SMB port 445 that was used, and we can see the DNS requests which were made on the network. So these are the DNS requests which were made. So the IP address of the DNS server, then the parameters we can see, parameters like user agent, host, user agent, authorization, right? So all sorts of things are clearly visible while you sniff the traffic using this particular tool called network miner. So things like this can easily be done if you have the right tool handy. So to make sure that your servers, your wireless devices, your network devices, or your applications or the web applications on the internet are not exposing any kind of credentials, you first need to check if your application is exposing that, and then you can recommend necessary security measures so that the same can be safeguarded. So with this, move on to the next session. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back. Hope you are enjoying this training. So now we have come to the most interesting layer of the OSI model, which is the heart of the OSI model, and we are going to talk about the transport layer. So this slide is packed with a lot of animations that will help you understand how the data is transferred at this particular layer. And we are going to see all those aspects of TCP, UDP, sequencing and reassembling and much more that goes here at this particular layer. So thank you so much for tuning in till this time. So journey here onwards is going to be simpler, easy, and I hope I'm able to give you all those insights on how the data is actually being transferred when it comes to network connectivity. Friends, like this, there are many more beginner courses that I have created. Those courses will lay your foundation and act as a launch pad for getting into the domains like desktop engineering, system engineering, or it could be cyber security. So it's my personal experience, and if your concepts are strong, you need not to depend on anybody or research around when there is an actual need to investigate some issue. So friends, with this, let's move on to our next layer, which is the transport layer. Hello friends, so let's start with the transport layer. So we have discussed about the application presentation session layer. So talking about the transport layer, so transport layer is responsible for end-to-end connectivity. It is also known as the heart of the OSI model, and the tasks performed at this particular layer are identification of service, then multiplexing and demultiplexing, then we'll be talking about segmentation, then the sequencing and reassembling, and the error correction, how it happens with the help of the remote data link layer, and finally the flow control. So friends, there are two types of services which are primarily used. Number one is TCP and other one is the UDP. So when it comes to TCP, this is known as transmission control protocol. UDP is known as user datagram protocol. So TCP is connection oriented, whereas UDP is connection less. So when we talk about TCP, when you send a packet, you get a response for that, and that's what makes it connection oriented. So when we talk about UDP, it is one-way communication, either the packets are sent or received. So as there is no acknowledgement from the recipient whether that packet is received, that is the reason we call it as a connection less. So here in the TCP service you get the acknowledgements, but in the UDP we do not get any kind of acknowledgements. Now, as there is an acknowledgement, this is pronounced to be a reliable protocol, whereas UDP is said to be unreliable. But even if this is unreliable, it helps in quickly sending or receiving something. There could be some loss, right? But end of the day, not all services need kind of reliable acknowledgements, right? So it could be a service where it's just that you need to send your voice, send an image, right? Share your screen, not necessary that every time you should receive the acknowledgements, right? So in such situations, UDP comes handy. So that's where this is known to be faster as compared to TCP. So TCP is slower as compared to UDP. Now coming to the port, so while we do the analysis, the packet analysis in the Wireshark, we'll see the port numbers. TCP uses port number 6, whereas the UDP uses port number 17. Now talking about the examples, so HTTP, FTP and SMTP are some of the examples of TCP. What that means is these protocols, the HTTP protocol makes use of TCP, FTP makes use of TCP, and an email service SMTP also makes use of SMTP. Whereas DNS is a DNS resolution protocol. Host on the network sends a request to resolve that DNS name. So name to IP resolution has to be done by the DNS server, but it's not necessary whether the host is able to or the client is able to reach to that particular destination by the DNS server. So friends, that's where it is using UDP. So same goes here. If a client requests for an IP address to a DHCP server, it doesn't need an acknowledgement. So once the request is received, the DHCP server responds back to that request regardless of whether the client has received the IP or not. So the same thing goes with TFTP, and these are the basic differences when it comes to service identification, which is TCP and UDP. So I hope you have got clarity on these two services. Now, coming to the activities done at the transport layer. So, this layer ensures end-to-end delivery. It means if there is a problem with the communication, this layer helps correct those problems. Then, so TCP and UDP protocols again work at this particular layer. So error correction is done by the transport layer. It plays a crucial role if some packet is lost during the communication. This layer helps send that particular lost packet to the destination. Then moving to the attack vectors here, man in the middle attack is one of the well-known attacks that goes here. So this is one of the our most sought after attacks in cybersecurity. So in my cybersecurity training, I have covered how this happens, and I will get more insights there once you complete the beginner courses. Now, the SYN and ACK flooding. So we have discussed in the previous sessions that TCP uses SYN, SYNAC, and ACK. So these are the communications. It's a three-way handshake that happens when data is transferred using TCP service. So in this case, SYN and ACK, these packets can be flooded by an attacker uh, to uh, to impact the functionality of the remote server. So if a flood of traffic is sent, the server becomes busy, and that's where you can plant another attack. Now, moving next is the TCP/IP vulnerabilities. So there are port level vulnerabilities. Then there are many other vulnerabilities associated with this particular layer. Then the main function that we are going to discuss here is the different activities which are performed at this particular layer. So session layer, you understood that session ID is attached to the communication or the packet. Now moving to transport layer, first thing you need to know is identification of service. So if you see port number 6 is being used during the communication, then it means it is a TCP packet. And if you see UDP, then the port number is going to be 17. So this is the primary thing that goes here. Now consider I have two hosts. So we come to the critical part of the uh, transport layer, and I have created a beautiful animation that will help you understand how the segmentation happens at this particular layer. So segmentation. So here consider you send a message, hello, how are you? And now this is the message that you are going to send. So what happens at transport layer is that this message is divided into small segments, and these segments are sent to the destination. So could be you are transferring a file in GB, right? It's a gigabyte file, it's a big file. You cannot transfer that 1 GB data in one go, right? So you need to segment that into small segments and send them one by one. And then subsequently, once all those segments are received at the destination, then it will recompile those segments to extract the data that you actually transferred. So we have seen that the hello, how are you, this is created, and now the segments are being sent. Now on the computer B, the segments are received. Not necessary that all the segments should be received in sequence. So it could be like you, hello, how, question mark, and you, right? So now the message looks like this, and this is not something that we are expecting. If you look at the way it is displayed here, so if you look at the data, this is where reassembling or sequencing comes into picture. So consider, now this is the data that is received, right? So this is not something that we want. So what happens here is, when you send a message, it is first turned into small segments, and these segments are now sequenced, right? So if I go back here, you can see 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, like this. Some sequence number is attached to each segment. It's not in this format. I've just tried creating a slide which would help you understand, right? and and we are going to see that in the Wireshark. So now the destination receives them and processes them. Now, friends, it's not necessary that these segments should be received in sequence. So, consider this is the message. You have segmented that message and it is sent. But it may happen that the data is received in this fashion. So, are we expecting this kind of data transfer? No. So, in order to overcome this problem, sequencing and reassembling was introduced. So, what happens here is, the computer sending the message will first segment the data, and after this is segmented, it will be sequenced in this fashion. Now that the data is now segmented, it is being sent. Now you have the data received by the computer B. It will first receive all those segments, and then it will reassemble them in proper sequence. Now the data is being sequenced and it will be displayed in the correct fashion. Now moving to error correction. So error correction is the function of transport layer. So here, suppose you are sending the data. So sequencing has been done, segmentation has been done, packets are being sent. Now the destination has received some of the segments, but one segment went missing. So after reassembling, the destination computer finds that there is a packet that is missing. And this error detection, I'm not talking about error correction. Error correction is the functionality of the source transport layer. So it is the functionality of transport layer on this computer, the sender. But detection of the error is done by the destination data link layer. And if the destination data link layer sees some error, it will report back to the source transport layer. And then, so this is where you can see it is reporting back to the source, segment is missing, and now transport layer of the source computer will only send that missing packet, I mean the missing segment, to the destination, and that will be received and reassembled, and finally the message will be displayed. So this is how the error correction is done by the transport layer in the OSI model. So now flow control, most of the times you might have come across situations, suppose you are downloading some movie from internet. Sometimes it shows 5 minutes left to download, sometimes it shows 7 minutes left, sometimes it may show 4 minutes left. So there is a continuous fluctuation in the time period that you see remaining to download a particular file or movie from the internet. And why that happens is because the network bandwidth is continuously fluctuating. Sometimes you'll be able to download more data, but if there is a congestion on the internet, it may hamper the speed with which you are downloading the data from the internet. So that's where flow control comes into picture. So windowing is one of the functions. So here what happens, suppose the client a computer A sends three window. Now the client has received all those three windows. Now it will revert back that I have received those three windows. So it means the computer A can understand that sending three windows is going smoothly. Now it will try to send some additional window. Now here this time it sends five window. Now the client has received four. It means that now so acknowledgement for only four window has been received. Now here you can understand that computer A can send only four segments, right? Nothing but the windowing function that goes here to the computer B at a time. So that's where the flow control is also controlled using transport layer. So transport layer, so at application layers, port numbers, HTTP, HTTPS, all that is applied. Then the data is converted into presentable format, that the format that can be used on the network. Example, EBCDIC, ASCII, lot many things we have already discussed. Then session layer, session is established, session is maintained, and session is terminated, right? And finally at the transport layer, the layer attaches the transport header, and data at transport layer is in the form of segment. So this is the very important thing that you need to understand. Hello friends, welcome back. So let's analyze transport layer using Wireshark. So here on my screen you can see Wireshark, and the traffic from Wi-Fi network adapter is being captured. So let's start the capture on the Wi-Fi. So here I have a test website that I'm going to open. So let me open the test page. So this is the login page of the test website which I have loaded for the demonstration. So let's check the IP address of this particular site. So we can do this by opening the inspect panel. You can go to network, and now let's reload the page again. So this is the login page. So if I click here, I can see the IP address, the remote address of that server, and the IP that my browser was connected to was this one, and currently the site uses port 80. So you can see that the page was loaded using port 80. So let's go back to the Wireshark, stop the capture, and now to filter out the traffic that was sent to the test URL, I am just going to apply the filter IP addr equals, and I'll paste the IP address. So I have removed the port. So if I hit enter, you can see that my computer 192.168.1.105 has connected to the website using this particular IP. So if I right click, go to follow and click the TCP stream, I can see that there are many transactions that have happened while I opened the URL. So whatever you see in the red color is the client requests, and the blue one is the response that was received from the web server. So as simple as that. So the first request was the get request, right? when it came to actually accessing that particular site. So let's analyze this with the help of the filter that we have applied. So if I look at the first request that was originated from my computer, so 192.168.1.105 is the IP address of my computer. If we go to the IP config, you will see that this is the IP address of my local computer, and the IP address of the website we have captured, and the same was applied in the filter. So now if you see the first three packets here, so the protocol used is TCP. So first, when I accessed the website or opened the URL in the browser, the request was originated from my computer to the web server. Protocol used was TCP, and source port was 62967 and the destination port was 80. So this was the SYN request that was sent. Sequence number 0, window size 64240, length of the segment 0. So many more in-depth options are visible here. So this was the request originated from my computer to the web server. Now this was the SYN. Now upon receiving the request from my computer, the web server replied back with a SYNACK, right? You can see that first SYN was sent, the synchronization request, and the synchronization acknowledgement was received. So this was received from port 80 on the server to the source port on which the request was sent. Sequence number 0 again and acknowledge 1. And in the next phase, the client has responded back to the server with an acknowledgement that I have received your response, and now I'm confirming that yes, I have received the response. So it's a three-way handshake that has happened on the test website. And now it is time when the client computer requested for the HTTP page, the login page which was loaded. So this is the protocol used was HTTP, a GET request. So whenever a client or whenever we access any particular web application, what happens is there is a GET or POST method that is used. There are many methods available, but just for your clarity for now, whenever we request for some resources from the web server, it's a GET request. When we submit something, it's a POST request, right? So I'll start the capture once again, and now I'll go to the test page and I'll enter some dummy credentials. I'll log in. Now I did something on the web page. Now if I go back and stop the capture, and now I filter out IP ADDR, the same IP address, hit enter. Now here you can also see the post action that has happened. The page was already loaded, but I did not capture the loading time, right? I did not capture the site while it was loading. So I don't see any get action happening here. I can only see the post action, right? Let's do that once again. So what I'll do is I'll close this. I'll go back to the login page. Right now, what I'll do is I'll first start the capture. Start the capture, continue without saving. I'll load the page now again. Now I'll enter some credentials. Hit enter and done. Now let's stop the packet capture. Earlier we did not see any get, it was only the post as you can see here. Now I'll filter out the traffic once again. Now you can see that the get request is also visible here, right? So get is there, post is there. So get means the website was loaded from the web server to your browser, and when you submit the or click the login button, so it was a submit action, that is nothing but the post action that was done on the website, right? So TCP handshake we already discussed. Now let us see the HTTP protocol details here. So my computer sent a request to the destination URL. The protocol used was HTTP. It was a GET request. Now if I scroll it upwards a little, now if I go to the transmission control protocol, here you can see the HTTP GET request was sent. Source port used was 63168. The destination port was the port 80. So what transport layer does is it does the job of end-to-end connectivity. So that's where we call it as the heart of the OSI model, right? So end-to-end connectivity, when we say end-to-end connectivity, it is nothing but port to port connectivity, right? So there could be 100 computers on this side of the network, 100 computers on the other side of the network, and one of those computers from source and destination are talking to each other. Then the mapping of this particular end-to-end traffic is done with the help of source and destination IP address at the network layer, but the port is used to identify the source and the destination, right? Now consider it's a web server. It has to run on a certain port. It will run on port 80 or 443, either of these two ports. Now HTTP is now insecure. So 99% of the websites today run on port 443. So the destination port is not going to change, but how the client is being identified is this source port. So that's where you can see a random port that was used. Now here in the GET request, if we look at the TCP segment length was 527, sequence number was 1, and the next sequence number, that is the relative sequence number, is 528. Now now the acknowledgement number is 1, and there are many more options visible. That the window size was 1020, right? So now if I click on the next packet here, it was the response received from the web server on my browser, that is my computer, and this was SYNAC sequence 0 acknowledgement 1. As you can see here, in the previous one the sequence number was 1, next sequence number was 528. Moving to the next packet, sequence number was 1, and there was an acknowledgement for 1 again, right? Now if we move to the next, now the client computer is talking to the web server. Here you can see the sequence number is 1, and the next sequence number is again 1 here. Window size is 1025. Now here the web server has now responded back with HTTP 1.1 200 OK. So what that means is, now here you can see the acknowledgement number 528, right? So if you go back to the GET request, here also you will see the next sequence number that was highlighted was 528, and this is the response that the web server has given to the source computer. So now moving next, a TCP request was sent from 1.105 to the web server again, sequence number 528, and the acknowledgement number is 679, right? Now if I move to the next packet, here next sequence number is 1238 and the acknowledgement number is 679. Moving next, now the acknowledgement number is 1238, right? And the next sequence number is again 768. Moving next, you will see that there is an acknowledgement coming in from 768. So here it's a to and fro communication, and there is a sequence number being created, and there is an acknowledgement against that particular sequence number. So this is how the communication happens on the transport layer. As we also discussed about the windowing, right? The data transfer that can be done between the source and the destination is, it's a continuous check that happens here, right? And basis the acknowledgement from the destination, the source then decides the size of the window that can be used to transmit the data. So friends, I think you have got enough idea on how this is happening. uh, Now, this is a completely unencrypted traffic that we have analyzed because the destination server was using port 80. But if the destination server uses port 443, then he won't be able to see all these details, as the traffic would be in encrypted manner, right? But there are many ways. One of the best possible option is you need to have that certificate with you, the private key, and then while you analyze the traffic from the secured website, you can then redirect the logs that are the packets that you capture on the Wireshark to some folder, and then you can decrypt those packets to analyze them in the same fashion that we have done. So the Wireshark decryption, the packet decryption on an HTTPS site, I have covered that in my Wireshark course. But for now, it is important for you to understand that the transmission that happens between the source and the destination, happens in this particular fashion. So for the network layer, we need not to go back again to Wireshark because the source IP, destination IP is clearly visible to you here in this packet analysis itself. So I will not be covering any separate Wireshark session for the network layer. But what you can see here, for the data link layer, here you can see the frame that uh, uh, the transactions that happen between the source and destination, these are captured, and you can see the MAC addresses of the source and the destination, which are very well visible here. So my computer is not directly interacting with the web server. So when it comes to frame, when it comes to data link layer, it is the MAC level communication that we can see, and my device is directly interacting with the broadband router that I have at home, right? And so that is the ZTE modem, for which it is showing the MAC address. So in the same way, uh, you can see source MAC address is being captured here. And if I go to internet protocol, the version of IP that I'm using is IP version 4, and the IP address of my computer is visible here, and the destination IP address is 163.182.194.25. So it is the same destination IP to which the browser from my computer has connected. So again, the protocol used was TCP, so that's where port number 6 is visible, right? So if it is UDP, you know the port number that is used by the UDP, and we have already discussed that in the previous session. So that's all about the analysis for the demonstration of OSI model. So in the next session, let's talk about the network layer. We have already discussed about the Wireshark packet analysis for network and data link here itself. So with this, friends, I think it's pretty much clear to you on how to analyze traffic for the transport layer using Wireshark. So with this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you for watching. Hello friends, welcome back. So I hope you are enjoying this training. So in the earlier section, we have discussed about the transport layer. Now let's talk about the network layer and understand what goes at this stage of the OSI layer. So network layer is responsible for providing the best path for the data to reach the destination, and logical addressing works on this layer, and router is a network device which works at this particular layer. So this layer is divided into two parts. One is the routed protocols and the other one is routing protocols. So friends, talking about routed and routing protocols, let's talk about the routing protocols first. So here you can see RIP, IGRP, OSPF, and EIGRP. These are some of the examples of routing protocols. So the purpose of the routing protocols is to find the best path. Example, you are connecting to facebook.com from your home location. So your request will first go to your home router, which is your default gateway. From the default gateway, the request will go to the ISP router, the ISP router to which your home router is connected. And from that ISP, so when we talk about the ISP, it is your local ISP, and that local ISP will be connected to one of the global ISPs in your country, and that global ISP will then transfer the data to the data center of Facebook, whichever country it may be, but it will be transferred to the global ISP of that country, and from there it will then connect to the local ISP to which Facebook data center is connected, and thereon transferring the request to the web server. So while data is transferred from your computer to facebook.com, it may take different paths. Example, it is going from your home to example BSNL is your ISP. From BSNL to it will go to TTML or TCL, or it could be VSNL, which is Videsh Sanchar Nigam Limited, and from there it will connect to the other country uh, ISP and subsequently the Facebook data center. So it may take multiple paths. The routers in between your home router and the ultimate facebook.com may change. So path identification is done by the routing protocols, and routed protocols, when we talk about IP, IPX, IPLTalk, so these are some of the routed protocols, or HTTP is a routed protocol again. So once the path is established by the routing protocols, routed protocols send the data on that established path. So identification of path, or finding the best path, is the functionality of the routing protocols, and sending data on the established path is the functionality of routed protocols. So we'll see that in the upcoming slides. So here, if you look at the network layer, so these are some of the devices in my home environment. Consider this is my laptop. This is the printer, which is a wireless printer, and I have a wireless router from AI's broadband. So if I have to show you, if I open command prompt and type IP config, you can see the IP address of my computer is 1.105, right? And my default gateway is 192.168.1.1, which is my AI's router. So if I ping to that router from my computer, so I'm able to connect to this router from my computer. So friends, I have covered IP addressing extensively in my IP addressing training, as well as there is an additional training which is physical network connectivity. These are two different courses that I have already created. You can visit them so that your concepts on physical network connectivity and the logical network connectivity, which is the IP addressing, will get clear. So moving back to our slides. So here, uh, so for any device to connect to the other device on the network, it requires something called an IP address. And that IP address is nothing but the logical address which works at the network layer. So to understand this, I have created an animation which will give you the exact idea what is happening behind the scenes. So consider I have two computers on my network, one with IP address 1.1 and the other one is 1.2. So this is the class C network that I have. So consider I'm sending a message, hello, how are you, to person on the other computer. So now data in the previous layer, which is the transport layer, was in the form of segment. So you already have a clarity on how the data is segmented, sequenced, and then reassembled. Now that segment becomes a packet at this particular layer. So what happens is at network layer, source IP, which is this IP, and the destination IP, which is this IP address, will be attached to the packet, and then this would be sent. Now, when the destination device receives that packet, it will check the destination IP, which is nothing but the IP address of the destination computer, and then will subsequently understand that the data is for me, and then it will open that packet to take out that segment. So this is how the data is transferred at network layer. So what you need to understand here at this stage is the logical addressing that works at this particular layer. So this is nothing but the example of routed protocols. You are sending a message on an established channel. Now, as I said, the data may take different paths. Example, you are opening my website. So on this computer, consider you have opened the browser and entered dhananjay.com. So the data may go through this path, or it may take this path, or it could be some other path. So many different paths can be taken. So these paths are decided by the routing protocols which are configured within these routers. So there are distance vector protocols and link state protocols. So distance vector protocols decide the path looking at the number of hops that the data needs to travel. So number of routers that the data needs to travel. But link state protocol will calculate the link speed even if it goes like this. But if the speed within each router is faster as compared to this path, for example, it will always take a longer path even if there are more number of hops or routers within the path. So this decision of selecting the path is done by the routing protocols. So I'm going to release a series on routing, which is switching and routing, very soon. So keep visiting my courses. The so just be there, stay tuned, and first try to complete all the courses, the beginner courses that I have already launched on my platform. So friends, like this, the path is selected by the routing protocols, and finally it reaches to the destination. So now talking more about the activity and the attack vectors at this layer. So activities, routing and addressing goes at this layer, which you already know. IPv4, IPv6 and routing protocols work at this layer. Example, OSPF, which is open shortest path first. So OSPF is one of the well-known protocols used to select the best path. So always remember, shortest path is never the best path. So decision needs to be taken basis the available bandwidth or best way to transfer data from one point to another. So OSPF does that. So then subnet configuration is another activity that goes at network layer. So attack vectors. So IP address can be spoofed. An attacker may spoof the IP address of your computer, may pretend to be you by spoofing your IP address. There are different tools available to spoof an IP address on the network so that if you are receiving traffic back to your computer, the router may also make the traffic visible to the attacker if your IP address is spoofed. So this is very well possible. Now moving to the next is the routing table manipulation. So there are some protocols which dynamically update the routing table looking at the neighbor routers. And if you connect a router, fake router, or a rogue device or the router within the network without the notice of the network team, what may happen is along with the other the legitimate routers, this Rogue router may also receive the routing table updates from the neighboring routers and get to understand how the data is actually transferred. So routing table manipulation is also possible. Additionally, local routing table on your computer can also be manipulated. So that's where most of the times it is recommended to flush the DNS cache and remove the static route. So I have covered the routing commands in my physical network connectivity chapter. Do visit the training and try to understand how the routing table is updated. So I have talked about the default route, or it may happen that your computer is connected to two different networks and you may need to decide the default route while data is being sent. So that's where the routing concepts come into picture. So now DDoS attack, again, a particular IP on the web, which is the public IP, can be targeted where organizations host their website. So every organization hosts their websites or applications on the network, which is the world of internet. And to make them accessible to the world, it needs a public IP address. So websites can be attacked with a distributed denial of service attack. So what happens here is a huge traffic is originated by the hackers from different parts of the world. This is usually done with the help of botnets. Botnet we are going to talk about in my cybersecurity trainings. But as this is focused more on the OSI model, just try and understand that DDoS is nothing but the distributed denial of service attack. So DOS is denial of service, and if it's distributed, so if the attack happens from different geographical locations, then it is known as distributed denial of service attack. So with this, we understood the functions of the network layer. So application layer, just to recap, port number is attached to the payload. So here HTTP is port 80, FTP 21, like that. The ports are attached at application layer, which is also known as application port. Then the presentation layer converts that data in a format which can be understood by the network or the next layers in the OSI model. Session layer maintains the session. So establishing, maintaining, and terminating the session is done by the session layer. Then transport layer does functions like segmentation of the data, sequencing, reassembling, error correction, multiplexing, demultiplexing. So these are the some of the functions at transport layer. Then network layer attaches network header, which is nothing but the source IP and the destination IP. And data at network layer is in the form of packet. So this is a usual question. So data at transport layer is in the form of segments, and data at network layer is in the form of packets. So the device that works at this layer is nothing but a router. So it could be any router. It could be a wireless router. It could be a Cisco router. It could be router from any other vendor. So let's understand source and destination IP address concept with the help of Wireshark. Thank you. So we discussed about IP addressing. Now let's talk about the physical addressing, which is the MAC addressing. So friends, when it comes to computer address, there are two types of addresses that exist. Number one is the logical address, and second one is the physical address. So logical address is nothing but the IP address. Physical address is the MAC address, which is nothing but media access control address. So logical address is called logical because it depends on the logic that you are applying and your IP may change according to that. So logic on the DHCP server in the office environment is different than the logic of the IP addressing scheme on your home router, right? So your computer will still be connected to internet in both these locations, but the IP address assigned by the router or the DHCP server at both these locations is different. So it is dependent on the logic that the network administrator has configured the router with. But when it comes to MAC address, it is physical address because this address is associated with the network card, the LAN card, or the wireless LAN card on your computer. So let's dive deeper and understand the data link layer. So friends, data link layer is divided into two sublayers. One is the LLC, also known as logical link control. It talks about the WAN protocols like PPP, HDLC, and frame relay. And MAC is media access control. It talks about the physical address. It is a 48-bit address, that is 12-digit hexadecimal number. So it is also responsible for error detection. And devices working at the data link layer are switches, bridges, and network adapters, that is network interface cards. So consider the environment like this. So along with the IP address, these computers will also have a MAC address associated with them. And while they are connecting to each other on the local area network, they need not to send the traffic to the router. So that's where communication will continue to happen using the local addresses, the local IP addresses again, but to identify the actual computer on the network with the help of switch is done by the MAC address. So friends, switch is the device which works at layer 2 and routers work at layer 3. So switches cannot understand an IP address while the router understands the IP address. But when it comes to MAC address, router also understands the MAC address and IP address, but switch will not understand an IP address. So here, error detection is the function of the data link layer. So consider two computers with an IP address and MAC address is there associated with them. So I'm sending a message here. Earlier to the data link layer, the data was at the network layer. Now data at the network layer was in the form of a packet. So that packet will now be converted to a frame. So source MAC address and destination MAC address is now attached at this layer. A cyclic redundancy check will be done on the data. There will be a checksum value. Consider 33333, and now it is sent across to the destination computer. Consider an example as like you are sending a package to one of your friends and you told him that I have sent you a package of 5 kg with 5 items with 1 kg each. Or you may say there are 4 items, 3 with 1 kg and 1 with 2 kg. End of it, it's going to make the weight as 5 kg only. And if you look at both these situations, in the first situation there are 5 small packages, where in the second case there are only 4 small packages. So that's how CRC works. When the data is sent, there is a value, CRC checksum value associated with the data while it is transferred, and it happens at the data link layer. Now the destination computer has received. It will do the CRC check once again and will check if the CRC value is 33333. Now here, as you can see, the CRC value has changed. It means there is a problem in receiving the data and some of the packets are lost. So error is detected. Now what happens is computer A CRC number is this, Computer B received with a CRC of this value. Error is detected for error correction. Now the destination computer's data link layer is going to contact the transport layer of the sender. So most of the students struggle to understand this because transport layer comes into picture first and data link layer comes in the second stage, right? So how come error is detected at data link and the error is corrected at the transport layer? Detection should come first, right? But when you actually look at the scenario, it is the data link layer of the destination and the correction is done by the transport layer of the source. So detection is actually happening at the earlier state. So what happens is the request is sent back. Now the missing packet will be inserted. Source and destination MAC will be attached. Again, the CRC will be recalculated. Now it is 20202. Now the data will be sent. Now it will again recalculate to get the correct CRC value. It means now CRC value is matching, and then the frame will be opened and packet will be submitted to the next layer at the destination end, and that is nothing but the network layer at which data is in the form of packets. So now this is how the data is transferred. So friends, talking about the activity and attack vectors at data link layer. So data is in the form of frames and error detection and correction is done at this layer. Ethernet, Wi-Fi and bridging, these are the activities done. So Ethernet devices work at this layer. Then attack vectors, MAC address spoofing, same like IP address, a MAC address can be spoofed. ARP spoofing, that is address resolution protocol. Spoofing is possible at this layer. Then VLAN hopping is an additional attack that can be done. So coming to the data link layer, the flow of data, port application port number is attached, data is presented in the correct format, example EBC, DIC, JPEG, MPEG, whatever. Session is established, data is now segmented, source IP, destination IP is attached. Now data link header attaches its headers and the data at data link layer is in the form of frame. Now the device that works at the data link layer is nothing but a switch. So with this we come to the end of the data link layer discussion. So let's try and understand MAC address concepts using Wireshark. Thank you. Hello friends, so we are at the last stage of OSI model. So here we are going to talk about how the data is actually getting transferred. So we have discussed about different activities at respective layers, but now it is time to actually transfer the data on the wire or on the wireless network. And this is done with the help of wireless pulses or electronic signals. So friends, let's talk about the physical layer. So physical layer is responsible for electrical and mechanical and procedural checks. Data will be converted into binary zeros and ones, and data will be in the form of electrical pulses if it is a coaxial or twisted pair cable, and in the form of light if it is fiber optic cable. So devices working at this layer, the physical layer, are hubs, repeaters, cables, and modems. So So coming to physical layer, we talk about different devices. It could be wired or wireless medium. So when it comes to wired medium, there are different types of cables available. So these are the fiber optic cables that you can see. And there are Ethernet cables as well, Cat5, Cat6, Cat5e, many other variants of Cat cable, that is Cat 1, 2, all the available cable variants. Some devices like repeaters, hubs, switches, right? So when it comes to physical layer, repeater and hub are the devices which actually work at physical layer. So in the physical network connectivity course, so in the physical network connectivity course, I have discussed all these aspects at length. I taught you about how to crimp a cable, what are the types of cable, like straight through cable, crossover cable, rollover cable. When it comes to fiber optic cable, we talked about single mode fiber, multi mode fiber, and their purpose. So, in short, physical layer talks about the media or the signals in which the data is actually transferred. So before the physical layer, data was in the form of frame, and this frame now gets converted into zeros and ones. So data is in the form of computer language now. When I say computer language, it is in the form of binary language when an on signal represents 1 and a off signal represents 0. So data is now sent across the network in the form of the pulses or the binary format or the signals, whatever you want to call it as. The destination computer receives those signals, and then the subsequent layer actions like frame, then the segment, frame, then the packet, then the segment keeps going on to extract the actual data. So the data flow from the physical layer. So the sequence we have already discussed multiple times. The data here is in the form of segment. At network layer, it is in the form of packet. Data link layer, it is in the form of frame. And at the physical layer, the data is in the form of bits, or you may say signals. And the device that works at this layer is physical, the hub. So activities and attack vectors. So physical medium and electrical optical signaling goes here. Ethernet cables and fiber optic cables are used at this layer. When it comes to wireless, it will be a radio waves in the wireless links. And talking about the attack vectors, somebody may do physical tampering, right? Open out some cable in the outlet, connect his own cable, and try to get access to the network. There is a wiretapping attack. Then the electromagnetic interference is another attack where somebody tries to interfere with your signals. So we talked enough about the physical layer now. There is nothing like Wireshark we need to discuss here because data is in the form of signals. So data encapsulation and decapsulation that we are going to discuss here. So this is the source and this one is the destination. Consider we are sending data now. So whatever activities are performed through application layer to physical layer on the sender's end or the source end, we call the process as encapsulation, and on the destination end we call this as decapsulation. So data at the application layer gets attached with the port numbers. I'm revising it again and again for you so that you make those things strong enough in your mind. So data at the application layer, this is the layer where user gets to talk to the computer with some interface, some application, some browser, or it could be any web conferencing tool like Teams, Zoom, WebEx, any tool that helps you interact with the world. So while data is the request is sent out from that particular application, it will attach certain port number so that the destination understand that user is on this application. I need to revert back to that layer. And when I say the layer, it is the specific application port or the protocol used at the application layer in here in this case. Presentation layer, data is converted into computer understandable language. ASCII, EBC, DIC, we talked about it multiple times. Session establishment happens here. Data is segmented, sequenced. The data is in the form of segments. Source IP and destination IP is attached. Data is in the form of the packets. Now data link layer, data link header and terminator both are attached. We talked about logical link control and MAC. This is what is happening here. Data is in the form of frame, and finally it is translated or converted into bits. Now data is sent. Now the process of decapsulation begins here. So bits translated to frame, headers are removed. Now it is in the form of packet. Headers are removed. Now we have the segment, and finally the session number or session ID is recognized, and now the data is in the actual format. So now at the presentation layer, it translates that computer readable language into the user readable language and makes it readable to the end user at the destination end. So friends, now as I said, OSI is a conceptual model. TCP/IP and OSI model, there is no difference. Please keep in mind. Okay, these were introduced in phased manner, and the TCP/IP model is the actual model which got the traction and moved into the practical world, wherein OSI remained as a conceptual model. So it is nothing but the code, right? The TCP/IP suite that manages these transactions, right? Whatever is happening on the internet. So conceptually, these are three different layers when it comes to OSI model. But in actual application, presentation, and session layer is packed into one single layer, and data link and physical is packed into another single layer that we are going to talk about in the upcoming slide. So I hope with this things are now making sense to you, and I'm confident that you have gained enough understanding and confidence about how the data is actually transferring uh, on the wire. So if we compare the OSI and TCP/IP model, application, presentation, and session, these are three separate layers when it comes to OSI model. But while doing a practical analysis on the Wireshark, you'll see that like these are all packed into one layer, right? Again, here this is conceptual bifurcation, right? This is again, it is one layer here. Now coming to data link and physical, this is again one layer in TCP/IP, that is the network access layer, and transport layer remains the same. Network layer is now pronounced as internet layer in TCP/IP. So do not think as if you still need to discuss all these four layers in the TCP/IP model separately. No, you just keep in mind that all these things, the first three layers in the OSI model are done within the TCP/IP layers. Transport layer remains the same, network layer becomes the internet layer, and data link and physical layer is treated as a network access layer. So just to recap, if you open a website on your browser, this is my website URL. You can visit the site like this. FTP, you get to see the access to the backend of your website, the folders where actual those the backend where the actual web pages are stored. Telnet, again you can telnet to a router with the help of your command prompt. This again happens at one port. Accessing Microsoft website, we discussed about the encryption that happens at the presentation layer. Then accessing your email, again the SMTP communication that you are doing. So, with this, friends, we come to the end of this training, and I hope you really enjoyed this training to the fullest. Wow, it's absolutely fantastic to see you here. You know what that means? It means you have successfully completed all the videos in the OSI model series. Please give yourself a round of applause because reaching this milestone is a great deal. So, today we are here to celebrate the amazing achievement together, and I want to take a moment to extend my heartfelt gratitude and congratulations to you. So, throughout this course, you have shown incredible dedication, perseverance, and a commitment to excellence. Hope you have completed this course in one sitting, as I said. So, your hard work and dedication have brought you to this moment, and let me tell you, it's truly inspiring to witness your success. So, I really want to appreciate all the effort you have put in. So, it hasn't gone unnoticed, not for a second. Now, whether you joined this course to level up your skills, pursue a passion, or propel your career forward, let me assure you, your effort has been well worth it. So, this course wasn't just about the OSI model, but you have also been introduced to the fascinating world of Wireshark, expanding your knowledge even further. So now you have got a solid grasp of what goes on behind the scene. So you understand how information or data loads on your computer from a remote system or a website. Hope you are finding this cool. So, in closing, I want to once again offer you my deepest congratulations. Your achievement today is a testament to your hard work. So here is a little favor to ask. I kindly request you to rate this course with a glowing 5 star. Your feedback helps me reach an even larger audience and fulfills my mission of building a highly qualified cybersecurity workforce. And if you have enjoyed this course, I bet you have. I encourage you to take the next step and dive into my Essentials of IP Addressing course. So, once you have completed that, I would encourage you to dive into another course on physical network connectivity. So, building an even stronger foundation for your learning journey. So don't forget to grab a sweet discount for Udemy on my website dhananjay.com. So investing in your career education is just as valuable as treating yourself to a delicious pizza. Am I right? So friends, I have learned these skills the hard way. Let me tell you, what you have experienced in this course is the essence of that hard earned experience. So, if you look at all my foundational courses and the total duration required to complete them, you need to dedicate just 50 hours of your life to going through those courses, and I can guarantee you a rewarding career ahead. Yeah, so you can trust me on this one. And I totally get that amazing feeling that you are experiencing right now after completing this particular course. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have been a part of your journey. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. And please remember, I'm constantly enhancing all my courses and keeping my students updated with the latest content. So please keep an eye on those course notifications and updates. They are your ticket to even greater success. So apart from the foundational courses, I've got layer 2 and layer 3 courses on cybersecurity that also touch on system administration, network administration, and application security. And these are the essential skills for every cybersecurity professional. And listen, If you want to roam around the globe, grab new opportunities, you have got to keep sharpening those skills. So, opportunities in your career are reserved for those who are open to learning and who can prove their capabilities to their peers. So take it from me, as it's my personal experience talking here. So today I am settled in Bangkok, serving one of the largest customers of my company. And you know how I got this opportunity? By putting in continuous effort, staying abreast of all the latest technologies, and helping my colleagues learn along the way. So we are a great team, living for a single vision of securing our customers. So and let me tell you, your manager and the management of your company will only give you opportunities if you assure them success for their clients and prove to be an asset to your organization. And that's only possible if you prove your capability of being someone who can take up those responsibilities. So no casual approaches here. Okay. With that said, I wish you all the best for your future career journey. So if you are ready to go even further and reach greater heights, I'll see you in my other courses. Thank you.